Hello, this is Chris from Red Soul. You can find me on www.red-soul.org. And I know I'm here with you a little late tonight. Had to get some rest, and I didn't want. I wasn't going to do a video tonight because I usually spread out my videos twice a week. But I came across this story that I couldn't resist, so here it is. It's a story out of Georgia related to the critical race theory, similar to the story I did recently about the top 10 critical race theory themes, and the title of that video is Education Insanity. So you have to go on Rumble to check out that video. But this is a video based on a ridiculous story I came across. The picture speaks for itself. Those days, right? And they're using this. I'm guessing it's a lesson for critical race theory. So now that the schools are integrated, some of them. I didn't go to an integrated school based on where I grew up in that urban diaspora in Chicago, which is one of those liberal cities that's extremely segregated, and it still is, even by public transportation, which is ridiculous. You pay your fare, you should be able to sit wherever you want instead of being cautious about the person you sit next to, unless that person is sick or mentally ill, and that's usually unfortunately a homeless person. But I came across the story, Daily Wire or Washington Post, New York Times is usually where I get my stories, and it says black parents outraged after learning Atlanta elementary school segregated classes by race. As if we didn't see this coming. But that color sign looks nice. I mean, because if you think about it, back when they had forced segregation like that, and that would be my example of systemic racism. Those signs were raggedy. I mean, the faucets from the water fountains were raggedy. They would have their dogs even drink from that fountain. Toilets, all messy, rarely cleaned. Colored restaurants, going to the back to get your food served. And even though black people worked out back there because that's all they had, it was just interesting. So, well, I'll read a paragraph, and as I go along, I'll make comments for each. So this is a black parent by the name of Keila Posley. States that she was outraged after learning that her child's Atlantic public school was segregating class based on race. According to the report, a TV station in Atlanta, Posley uncovered that the school's principal was segregating class based on race when she insisted that her child be moved to a different classroom. The principal, Sharon Briscoe, told Posley that her child would be isolated in the desired classroom because it wasn't a black class. Now, let me stop right there. I know we all have choices in life, but this all comes back to the root of the problem. Over the last several years or so, who was the main group of people, and this is recent, who wanted segregated graduations, who wanted segregated dorms, who wanted to invade in spaces where something as simple as the library places where, well, and this is based on my observation and experience, black people rarely go to. They want to take over that. And these are in primarily university that's mostly white. These are black people doing all of this. So, with a story like this, it always leads to something. Now, I don't know the black population in the school, but keep in mind, Georgia was one of those states that had slavery and Jim Crow. So, I don't know about this principal's generation. I don't even know the race of this principal. It hasn't, they haven't mentioned her yet. Maybe it'll be mentioned in this article. I don't know. If she's white, maybe, somewhere along her line, if she's had generations of Georgians, they participated in the Jim Crow laws because they had to. And the whites that did speak up for at that time, they got punished the worst because they were considered traitors. Story continues. The principal said that's not one of the black classes, and I immediately said, what does that mean? I was confused. Posley, the black parent, told the local news outlet. I asked for more clarification, and I was like, we have those in this school? And she proceeded. I hate when they start sentences with correlative conjunctions. And so and but. That's terrible. She proceeded to say that, yes, I have decided that I'm going to place all of the black students into classes. Posley claims that the elementary school created 8 classes, 2 for black, 6 for whites. So I'm guessing this school has more, white students. Now, it still doesn't say what her motive of doing this. CRT hasn't been mentioned. We don't know, if black students wanted this, because I wouldn't be surprised if black students initiated this idea. We don't know I don't know the that it still hasn't been mentioned, and the story really isn't that long. I'll continue. We've lost sleep trying to figure this out. Like, why would a person do this? First, it was just disbelief that I was having this conversation in 2020 with a person that looks like, just like me, a black woman. So the principal is black. It's segregating classrooms. You cannot segregate classrooms. You can do it. No, people, the principal probably can't do it legally, but students tend to segregate themselves, starting with the cafeteria. If it's a so-called school of all races, despite of the classrooms being integrated, once they're in the cafeteria, all the black students sit together, Hispanics, Latinos sit together, Asians, whites, etc. And even if you were to sit amongst them, everyone is not going to feel comfortable with you being there as an outsider. Okay. I know, until they get to know you. Alright. Posley has since filed a discrimination complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. If she's fighting against another black woman, I don't think they're going to do anything. Her complaint argues that school violation Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 claims that no person in the U.S. shall, on ground of color, race, national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits, or subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The fate of a discrimination complaint of this nature remains unclear, given that it was turned in to the president Joe Biden himself, Department of Education. Now, if he finds out, first off, he probably doesn't even know where he is. But if he finds out this teacher is black, I don't think he's going to challenge it. This principal, excuse me. The Senate Education Committee has held hearings with Biden nominee to lead the Office of Civil Rights, Catherine Lehaman, I guess that's how you pronounce her name. During her hearing, she refused to answer whether it would be a violation of Title VI to ascribe character traits, values, morals, ethical codes, privileges, status, beliefs to a race or to an individual solely because of his or her race. If anything, I was just thinking about that as I'm watching a rerun of The Five. I don't know if this was a show earlier where they interviewed Tucker Carlson on his new book. Okay. And out of the countries that I've lived in, believe it or not, this country is really good to black Americans. I mean, I've been to countries, and they still exist, where people perform proudly and freely in blackface. I mean, not the blackface that Megyn Kelly was scolded for. I'm talking about the old school, early 20th century minstrel show blackface. And yeah, I mean, I know Korea is one, some parts of Europe, and I'm sure many more parts of Latin America. But yet here it's illegal to do that. I don't know about Canada. Even in Mexico, they can do that. I've even seen little dolls of ancient mama looking, and there was also a sticker about it. And when there was controversy about it, this is in Mexico, and I don't know, somehow maybe she was talking to a Mexican, and a black lady scolded him because he didn't think it was a big deal, and they usually don't, because in a lot of countries like that, other developing countries, they have no idea what racism is, because we're the only country that really talks about it, and we're such experts about it. Okay, so he didn't understand what the beef was about until she gave an example of maybe a drunkard that's showing a photo of a drunkard beating his wife, and they're both of Mexican ancestry, and then he stopped. So anywho, I'll finish and then close with final comment. The Biden Education Department has similarly reversed course on a Trump error ruling that found racial affinity groups to be a form of segregation. Racially affinity groups, I don't know what maybe they're talking about non-whites, I don't know, which could be used to justify racially segregated classes, separate students and staff by race in hopes of giving black people a safe space. Well, that's why a lot of blacks segregate, because they think these spaces are safe. It says, tell the over 40 people that were shot in Chicago this past weekend to discuss their experiences with racism while providing a separate space for white people to learn about their white privilege. Oh, I'm curious to see about that curriculum. Okay. Undercurrent, it concludes. In short, under current education department standards, racial affinity groups in public schools are permissible and do not violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, that was held passed by Republicans. So it's I'll just stop to say this. I don't know where this story is going to go. I don't see this story going anywhere, simply because of the race of the principal. And that's why it's not really big. I just happened to come across this story. So it's not like it's national news right now. However, if the principal were white in particular, especially white, then we would have heard this story within 24 hours. Let me see. What is the date of this story? Yeah, oh, okay. The 11th. Okay, so that's the 11th. Okay, so that's today. But it hasn't hit nationwide yet. And I definitely haven't heard from fake news that talked about it. So, definitely not Fox and others. But yet they're quick to call someone like Tucker Carlson a white supremacist. But that's all I have for this evening. Thanks for listening. Again, this is Chris from Red Soul. You can check me out on my website. I'm also on iRadio, Spotify, Public Radio Breaker, and others. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.